All right, good morning, you guys. Can you see and hear me well?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Nice to see it, Noah. Caitlin, Lexus, if you don't mind, I'd love to see your videos too, just because it's awkward to stare at myself. Appreciate it. Hello, Caitlin.
Hi.
All right, wonderful. Okay, so welcome to Com 101. I've been watching some of your videos, getting to know you. Thank you for getting that done. So hopefully we'll have some more lingering in. These meetings aren't required, but they are strongly encouraged because it can help you, especially when we get further advanced in our class, because you're going to be working on big projects, and I want to be there for you in the through the process so you don't get behind. All right. So we'll do a brief lecture about this upcoming chapter that you're required to read on communication analysis. I'll go over what you need to get done by Friday and answer any questions that you guys have. Sound good?
Perfect.
Awesome.
Awesome.
All right, I'm gonna share my screen so that you can follow along with what I'm talking about. So, did you guys notice this quick glance at schedule module that I opened up for you guys?
Yes, I did see that.
All right, cool. So this is your go-to page. You'll be able to see everything you need to do for the week, but just be aware that I only unlock all the assignments on the week that we're on because I don't want you guys getting too far ahead because there's things you got to do as a group, and also I want to make sure that you're doing everything correctly. So this whole week has been unlocked, which means you could have done course module on time on Tuesday, but you could already been jumping ahead and working on your Friday assignments just so that you, if your schedule's really crazy later in the week, you can kind of get ahead. So those are always available for you at the for the whole week. And just know on Saturday mornings, I will unlock the following week so you can start working on things during the weekend if you wanted to do that as well. So where we will be talking about is on module two. Can you guys see my PowerPoint?
No, we're still on the
Okay.
schedule.
Thank you, Noah. So let me try again. It's been a while. I used to teach Zoom during COVID, and that was so fun, right, guys? I'm sure you guys dealt with
Mhm.
that. All right. Can you see it now?
Yeah.
Yes.
Cool. All right. Wonderful. So let's begin. All right. So in your chapter reading, you're going to be learning about the general ideas of what is communication, how is communication flowed, and what was why is communication so important to study? So just in general, what would you say if I said, what is communication? What kind of words would you describe it? How would you define communication?
Any like form of nonverbal or verbal like forms of language, I
Love
guess.
that. I love that. So what is nonverbal language?
Like
Like body
language.
movements, even dancing can be considered a language,
Love it.
or like communication, stuff like that.
Yes, I agree. Caitlin?
Um, yeah, just like talking with your hands, movements. Yeah.
Yeah. And we'll find out later when we discuss more detail about nonverbal, but it is more likely tell you will express your emotions. You'll be more truthful with the movements, your facial expressions, far more than the words you say, right? So yes, you're right. So it's nonverbal and verbal communication. Any other thoughts about what is communication? Okay, well, let me give you my definition. Communication is such a broad topic and it's kind of hard to define. And actually, that's going to be an assignment you're going to have to think about. How would you define communication? Here's what the way I define it. It's the process of creating or sharing meaning in informal conversation, group interaction, or public speaking. So the process of creating or sharing a meaning. Every time you say something, you have a purpose to those words, even if it's unintentional. You know, I have a 10-year-old and a 14-year-old, and so when they get frustrated, it's through their nonverbal cues that I can tell, with the eye rolling, the tongue sticking out when they think I'm not looking, right? And the huff and the puffing, right? They want to express their feelings, Whether they intentionally did it or not, that's, another thing. But you can be conversing in conversation like you and I are doing in a group setting, like in a large classroom or public speaking in a big group. So it is a broad idea, but it is so important to recognize the purpose of communication. So there are three dynamic groups you should think about when talking about communication. Now, you should develop your communication skills for personal reasons. What do you think I mean by personal reasons? Why should you learn communication skills for personal reasons?
It to help in like relationships or trying to communicate effectively with your kids or something along those lines.
Absolutely. So I heard, Caitlin, you're getting married soon, right?
Yes, yeah.
Okay, so you're developing this whole new life for you, right? And I'm sure your partner has their way of doing things in the home, and you have your way of doing things in the home. And if you don't communicate effectively now about these changes and how you're going to have to compromise, it's going to have a hardship down the line, right?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, so developing interpersonal skills, which means one-on-one conversations, is detrimental for a lot of different types of relationships. Now, professionally could be talking about both in a workforce or in school as well. So why would learning communication skills help you in a classroom setting?
I mean,
I could help you um like for instance, I'm kind of a shyer person, so it could help me kind of find the words to use when I'm in a group setting, so I'm not so shy or I don't kind of my brain doesn't go like blank as I'm staring at everybody.
Yeah, no, I get that. Absolutely. Noah?
yeah, kind of piggybacking off of what Caitlin was saying, to be able to convey what you want to say, like say you had a reading or some class discussion, to be able to put what's in your head into words is really important for academic purposes.
Absolutely. And some people, they are naturally kind of confident in doing that, right? Whereas some, it's something you have to work on mindfully, right? And that's frustrating. I not only teach this class, but I teach specifically a public speaking class. And I love teaching that class because I get in students who are like confident come there, but I have students that are just the fear in their eyes is very apparent, right? And those are my favorite students because by the end of the semester, they have learned and they have developed and they have pushed themselves so much that at the end of the semester, they're some of my best students, because they challenged themselves when it wasn't such a natural thing for them to do. Maybe someone they sat by could do it. And so they were coasting. So coasters don't get much out of it, but those who it's a challenge, it's a great benefit. And I think those who, like Caitlin was saying, more of a shy person, when you're shy, you have more empathy and you recognize that it's not an easy thing to do. And so you're more, I don't know, just passionate for others who are trying their best and trying to develop those skills as well. But in a professional setting, whether it's your clients, whether it's your patients, whether it's your colleagues or your peers in class, you need to be able to articulate the things you need to say, whether it's in a workforce meeting or a presentation, just like Noah was mentioning. So yes, professionally, it's important as well. So what about public? Why would learning communication skills help us in a public setting? Any thoughts?
I think leadership is a big example. Like even if you're in like just a group of friends and you guys are
Mhm.
trying to go out and do something, to be able to stand in front of that whole group of friends and convey and carry your voice out to be able to say what you need to say or even like lead the group to go to the next spot or whatever. It's an important aspect.
Absolutely, it is. And in a bigger setting, you kind of feel like your voice is being drowned by all the other noise around you. Group settings are hard, especially if it's a pretty good sized group. It feels like you're getting nowhere in the conversations. It's more like shallow, because you don't really have that intimate one-on-one style of conversation. So you don't feel as heard. Good
Mm.
example. Alexis or Caitlin, another example you can think of?
Yeah, I honestly just think that like being able to articulate your words enough to kind of get everyone to like, especially in like a leadership role, to be able to say the right things to get them to follow you.
Mhm.
Or like if you're giving a speech or anything kind of along those lines, just making sure that you are keeping everyone's attention in what you're conveying, and using the right language to kind of be able to do that and maneuver around that.
Yes, absolutely. I love that. You know, learning about communication skills and public speaking skills can also help you in participating in our democracy. Understanding how people formulate their ideas, how people maybe even manipulate the things they have to say, help you as a listener, which is part of the communication channel, better evaluate the things you hear. We just got over an election and we listened to campaigns, we listened to debates. And if you are a good analytical listener and really think about the things they say, you are more likely going to be able to pick the person, the candidate that you feel would be best because you really understood the words they had to say. Now, you may never run for office, and so in that big public setting, that's not something you're going to do. However, you are constantly doing public communication, and that's through social media. Being aware of the things you post, the words you say, the videos you share, they reflect off of who you are. And how many times has what people posted in the past backfired in the future, right? So it's crazy to me how the younger generations, younger than you guys, because I know you're smart, but you aren't aware of what an impact those words you say, which in the heat of the moment seemed important to you, really can slap you in your face, in the future. So being aware of the things, the messages you send will have a lasting impact for sure. All right, so in your chapter reading, there is two forms of models of communication that I want you guys to understand. The first one's called the linear model, okay? So in the linear model, it claims that a sender will send a message to a receiver, okay? And that's kind of where the model ends, okay? So the sender encodes, which means they put an idea into message form and they give it to a person to receive it who will decode, which means they'll listen to it, they'll analyze it, and kind of translate what is being said. Okay. And then there's noise all around. That could be the physical noise, like your 2-year-old screaming in the background because so you're missing the message, or you're stressed about another class. So you're really not hearing my lecture because you're stressed about something else, right? Those are all examples of noise. Now, a linear model of communication is very limiting, right? Because it's basically saying a sender sends a message to the receiver and that's how it is. But we know that's not really how it works, right? It's transactional. Now, in old-fashioned mass media, it was very linear. You read a newspaper, you would read, that was the sender sending a message, you read it, and you're the receiver. Now you could yell at the newspaper, but is it getting that feedback? No, right? Yeah. You can toss it, you can burn it. No. Watching television, the same idea, right? You can watch it and you could yell at the news anchor, but nothing will happen. Okay. Because it's very linear. But now we understand that with modern technology today, we can give feedback. We can make comments on social media, right? We can unfollow certain influencers that you don't feel like agree with, offend you or whatever that case may be. And even texting back and forth, you're giving that transactional model. So that is a lot more accurate. So here's a better example of how we actually communicate. And here's an example. So we got Josh here, who is a lonely man, and he decides he needs to find a girl. And what better place to do that is to go to a club, apparently. So he's going to find the woman of his dreams at a club. And across the room, he sees that girl, Veronica. And he was like, yep, that's the woman of my dreams. I'm going to go talk to her. So he goes up to her and he says, ever so appropriately from Friends, how you doing? And so he encoded a message of all the things he could say to this girl. He thought about it and he thought this was the open liner. Okay. So he sends a message to Veronica. Now, linear model will say that's basically what it was, right? But we know there's going to be more to that because Veronica is going to respond and she's going to say, what did you say? So she decoded what he had to say, and this was her feedback. What did you say? Now that could be translated in many ways. When she says, what did you say? What did she mean by that? Any ideas?
She could just basically mean like, I'm sorry I didn't hear you,
Yeah,
or like why did you say that to me? Kind of like, what did you say to me? Like,
Absolutely, like Caitlin. So it could be as simple as they're in a club, booch, 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 right? And she literally cannot hear what he's saying. What did you say? Right? Or it could be like, what did you say? Right? And so now my nonverbal cues, the way I fluctuate my voice, there's a different translation there, right? And so he has got to read into what it is she's trying to say. And that can be really difficult because of all the different noise, whether it's the loud noise of the club, or who knows, maybe Veronica just got broken up and she is not in the emotional state to be meeting a new guy, right? So that is a different type of noise as well. They are in a different mindset before even getting to know each other. It's not going to work out. So you got to recognize that there's a sender who encodes a message to the receiver who will then decode, and each other, they'll go back and forth giving feedback. Noise will influence how that message is sent, but so will the context. What does that mean, the context?
like environment or um, I guess positioning of like where she was, like say she was turned around when he said it, or
Yeah.
what's the meaning or the yeah the
No, that's
context.
great, Noah.
Yeah.
No, you're on the path. You're right. So it kind of goes back to what I was saying with Veronica saying she's not in the state of mind, right? Context, right? We don't know her story. We don't know what frame of mind she's in right now. We don't know if she's even available to be asked out. Um, and environment, like you said, is another great example. So, he's coming up and he's hitting on her. Maybe it's appropriate at a club, but let's say he saw her at her grandmother's funeral. That would may not be as appropriate, right? So context
Mhm.
makes a big difference. So here's this kind of a list of terms that I want to make sure you guys are familiar with. Make sure that you understand that the sender will encode or take the ideas and put them in message form, and the receiver will decode, which just means they translate that message. And decoding the message, Veronica could misunderstand. Maybe when he said, "How you doing?" he wasn't hitting on her and he was saying, "How are you doing?" because she looked upset or she looked sick and he was concerned, right? So the way we decode messages could be mistranslated. The message, of course, is the verbal or visual images and nonverbal behaviors, just like Noah was saying, both verbal and nonverbal. Symbols means words, sounds, or actions that represent specific ideas. We'll talk about symbols more later in our lectures. And of course, feedback is giving a reaction to the message you receive. Noise can be both physical or psychological, and context can be the circumstances that influence the environment, such as the physical limitations, socially, historically. When I say historical would be an example like, let's say she knew Josh. They knew each other in the past, but maybe he didn't remember her. So him coming up and being like, "Hey, how you doing?" acting like he never met her. She's like, are you kidding? Right? We dated last month and you ghosted me, right? So there's a historical uh, experience with each other that affects the way they communicate. And then, of course, psychological, how is she in the frame of mind? And then cultural, some cultures, whether, you're not as open and friendly or as aggressive as other cultures. And so that would make it a difference as well. All right, any questions about the transactional model of communication? Pretty basic, right? You got the ideas?
Yeah.
Perfect. Okay, so I do want to quickly do a quick class discussion. I want to ask you guys, what kind of skills developed by communication students are highly valued by employers? So this is something to think about. What kind of skills learning communication can help you get your job and retain it?
like body language, like eye contact, handshake, being able to convey that you actually have knowledge of what you're being hired on to do.
Absolutely. So Caitlin's talking about the interview, it sounds like, right? First impressions. And so
Yeah.
you need to walk in with confidence. You look them directly in the eye. You give a strong, good handshake, and you're prepared with sharing your experience, your knowledge, your education to give you credibility for the job. Absolutely. So now you have the job. Why would you still need these skills?
I believe once you have a job, you need to be able to use those communication skills to be able to keep them. So how you relate to your clientele, other coworkers, and possibly if it's a leadership position, being able to actually express stuff in a professional manner without making other people feel less of themselves.
Yeah.
I think to make sure that you're aware of those boundaries and not trying to there's a word for it that I can't think of, but it's like when
Mhm.
somebody's in a higher position and they use
Like
their
talking
power.
down at them.
Yeah.
Mhm. I love that, Alexis. You're right. So let's use the example of you're going into nursing. You know, if you're going to become a nurse and you're talking to your patients and you don't have those basic communication skills and you're doing what Alexis said, talking down at them or maybe talking above their mind, above their heads with terms that they don't understand, you know, they're not going to feel secure. They're not going to feel valued, right? Um, uh, a lot of med students have to take this very class for that very reason. My husband is a pharmacist and he had to take this class while I was teaching it, by the way. And he had to develop basic communication skills. And a lot of people who go into science-based, math-based work don't have those natural communication skills like English majors may have, right? And so they need to develop a way to connect with their patients, or even the simple jobs as waitressing. Like if you don't have those basic skills to connect and to understand and to hear and to remember all the things they share with you, you're not going to be that great of a waitress, right? You've got to connect with your patients. A recent study found actually that I read 70% of global employers indicate that communication is the most desirable skill amongst their employees. And you will find in your chapter reading that the top 10 skills employers want in their new employees all kind of relate to communication, whether it's learning to work in a team, decision making, organizing and planning, verbally communicating with their peers, and selling and influencing others are some of those examples. So even though you may not become communication majors, apply your future goals in this class so that you can be ready to rock it, not only passing this class, but preparing for your future as well. All right, so what's coming up? On Friday, your module 2 is due, and I wanted to quickly just go over these with you because your first module was pretty easy, right? All you had to do was introduce yourself, tell me you read your syllabus, which is wonderful. You got that done, but I want to make sure you guys know really the structure of this class. And I'm all about consistency, and so you can know that every Tuesday, you'll have an odd module, 1, 3, 5, 7 is due before midnight. And every Friday, all the even modules, 2, 4, 6, 8, will be due before midnight. Okay, so those are the big things, the modules, right? And then if you went over what I had published, the DTM, which is pretty much going to be your group project, and your IRP, which is going to be your personal research paper, those will be due sporadically throughout the semester, but you can see that I have them posted on your calendar as well. And I will constantly be reminding you, hey, don't forget to get this done. But I wanted to show you, if you hadn't figured it out already, if you go to this quick glance schedule, I have links for everything. So you can click here and automatically get to module 2. The first page just basically tells you, hey, this is what you're going to be studying. And this is the chapter. So you can click on this link. I would recommend you go Control on your key and then hit it and it will pop up into a new tab. Okay. So there's access to the chapter reading, and every module you'll have a discussion, a written assignment, and a module assessment. So let's go over this next one to make sure you understand the process. All right, so your first discussion prompt, this is on this discussion board. So everyone will see what you post and then they can give you feedback, okay? So you finished reading chapter 1. Now I want you to create your own definition of communication. Why is communication considered so hard to define? Apply an example, okay? So that's what, a paragraph or 2, all right? You're gonna put it right here. You're gonna go to reply and you're gonna give your feedback, okay? This will be due Friday before midnight. That'll be worth 10 points. Okay. Now, the second part is you come back the next day and you'll see all your classmates' comments. I want you to respond to a minimum of 2 students. And don't just say, yeah, I agree, or yeah, that's so cool. You know, like say, that's a great example. This is what I was thinking. Give each other feedback. You know, the online classes are great because they work with your schedule. You can do it on your own time. You can be in your underwear and no one knows any better. That's great. But with a communication course, like you lose that connection with your peers. And this is one way I'm trying to develop a way for you to work on your communication skills and also to get to know each other. Okay. Because eventually you're going to be in a group setting as well. So for your peer reviews, you need to come back here and respond to at least 2 before Monday midnight. And that's worth 5 points. Okay. So if you forget to do it, you lose 5 points, whatever, but it does accumulate. So don't make a bad habit of that. Okay. Work on your scheduling and prioritizing your work. Okay. So Eve, who's not here, but she already posted hers. Is that okay? Absolutely, it's okay. That's why I unlocked the whole week. So based on your schedule, what's the best way for you to get your work done? And for Eve, she got it all done Tuesday. All right. So she has already posted her thoughts and she'll come back this weekend and she will read everybody else's and give some responses. Okay. Any questions about how you do a discussion? Cool. All right. So not too difficult. This is a way to connect with your peers. All right, so for your actual writing, you're going to do a 1 to 2 page paper for every module, kind of just letting me know you did your chapter reading, you applied it to in the future the theory you're going to develop. Just letting me know you're getting your work done. Okay. So either on Google Docs or on Word or whatever document you use, you're going to type a 1 to 2 page paper. When I say 1, I'm talking about a whole 1 page, not a half a page. Okay. All right. So this one's a pretty easy one. I want you to tell me 3 people you think that are effective communicators. You can reference chapter reading and other communication examples. So even though the chapter doesn't go into great detail about verbal and nonverbal communication skills yet, talk about it. Because, that was the first thing Noah said. So obviously he sees the importance of both not just the words you say, but how you say it, how you share it with your nonverbal cues. Listening skills is another great example. So think about 3 people in your life that are great or effective communicators and tell me why. Okay. So you would type that up, make sure it's quality writing, and then you would submit it here. Okay. So if I put this on student view, you will see you can upload it right here. Okay. This is the rubric. It is worth 25 points. Basically, I'm judging you based on did you do a strong analysis and did you reference chapter reading? Letting me know that you understood the ideas and you did your reading. Okay. And also grammar and organization. All right. So make sure you read through it and it makes sense. All right. And make sure it's in your own words. Let's not do ChatGPT, you guys. These are not hard papers. I want to learn about you, not about some computer's thoughts. All right, let's move on to the last thing. Now, the assessment is something you will do for everyone, and it's the same question. What was the most valuable point of this chapter or module? How will you apply this idea to improve your communication effectiveness? Okay, so you could type directly on to this dialog box down here, 2 to 4 paragraphs long, and just go into detail about what did you gain from this chapter. And this is kind of like a journal entry to help you in preparing for your big assignments. And that's what's due on Friday before midnight. Let's see. So I wanted just to make sure everyone's kind of understanding what to expect from this class. So any questions specifically about what are expectations that I have for you so far? Alexa says no. You're good to go? Awesome. What about you, Noah?
Um, I mean, I kind of get the gist of kind of what's expected based on like coursework and like what I need to kind of
Okay.
take from each week's chapter readings and all that.
Yes.
I did have a question. Are the PowerPoints public or are they just something that we
Great question. I won't have the PowerPoints public, but I am recording these sessions. So if you ever need to go back to them, they will be available for you to access it that way.
Okay.
Great question. Caitlin?
No, I don't have any questions.
Okay, good. There's one more thing I would like to share with you, just so you guys know what to do and make sure you have read it if you haven't already. And then I'll let you guys go. Unless you have a need to meet with me individually, I'll meet with you individually. So if you go to modules, you will see here, what am I doing again? Oh yeah, okay. So you have two capstone projects. You have to do the IRP and the DTM. Did you guys read through these? Do you understand these at all? Did you go through them? It's okay if not. I just want to get an idea.
I
I did
brushed
not.
through them.
Okay, so these are your big projects that we'll be building up to it. And when it gets to that point, I will be like, hey, make sure you do this. But the IRP is basically, we're going to learn about communication theory and how we kind of study the world of communication. And I want you to create your own theory. You make an observation in the world. Like it could be something as simple as you've observed when going on a first date that the person you're meeting really appreciates you being friendly and smiling and giving good eye contact. So your theory is in order to develop a new relationship, it's good to appear friendly and open to conversation. Okay? So let's say that's your theory, all right? And then throughout the semester, you're going to find studies that talk about nonverbal cues and eye contact and open conversations to help develop your theory. Okay. So to start thinking about what you observe in the world. What is something maybe like a pet peeve you have, or just, the way people communicate, something about that. So just kind of have that in your head. It's going to be coming up, but not this weekend. Okay. The DTM is I'm going to put you guys in groups. I know we all hate that, but we have to develop group communication as well. So you guys are going to get in groups and you're going to have a chance to together develop a training module about a specific category. So let's say you got nonverbal cues. All right. So you're learning about nonverbal communication and you're going to apply those skills to help students learn your training module on how to become better at interview skills using nonverbal. Okay. So these are step-by-step works, and it's not going to just be one big assignment. It's going to be all semester. And at the end of the semester, these will be your final submissions. Okay. So don't feel overwhelmed with those. I will be with you every step of the way, but those are the big projects aside from the modules.